What's up, y'all? The correlation between abstaining from lust and losing loved ones in your life is very close knit. And I'm gonna tell y'all why. Because when you start to avoid the things that kept you in bondage in terms of lust, fornication, adultery, promiscuity, you start to realize that you'll find yourself in moments of isolation. Not necessarily from family, could be, but more so friends. You realize that you've built relationships with people based off vicinity, pleasures of the devil, lying, stealing, partying, excess drinking, drugs, even simply just vibes. But then you get older and you start to realize that, man, these things aren't really giving me a good return on my investment. What are these people really doing for me? And you realize that a lot of people are in your life simply just because it feels good. And a lot of things that feel good pertains to our lust. Now, I'm not saying you struggling with an addiction to watching dirty websites is a reason why you build relationships with others. But you start to realize that the things that you're struggling with, the people that's close around you possibly may be struggling with as well. Like when they say birds of a feather, right? You might be flocking together with people who are hiding their secret sins, and they're the same secret sins that you're hiding from them as well. You know, especially as young men don't necessarily talk about addictions with lust until we get older. More so once you conquer those things. But when you're in the midst of battle, it's not really a topic of discussion because there's so much shame attached. You don't want the world to know it. You know, you care about what people think so much, you're willing to lie to yourself, you'll lie to others. And when you cut off those relationships, you start to realize, like, what am I lying for? And it comes from maturity and growth, and it takes time, but it takes a lot of self-accountability for you to be able to get over those things. Even acknowledging the problem in itself takes a lot, you know? And I've learned that it's no coincidence that I've lost people once I started to better myself. Once I ran that red light. Once I started to truly get away from drugs, sex, corn, you know, I was by myself. I realized that most people, I was the reason why I had friends. Once I stopped hitting people up, I stopped hearing from people. So I was the strength, I was the bridge in my relationships. But had I not have attacked those secret sins, I would still be in the world and I would still be around the multitude. A lot of people don't know how to be alone, so they cope with the things that they feel like people will gravitate to them towards. You know, a lot of people don't understand what it takes to truly try to martyr yourself spiritually and also physically for Christ. You know, are you willing to die for the word? I think about that here and there, you know. But when it comes to battling secret sins, you have to understand that you're going to lose people. It's different if you grew up in the truth and your circle of influence from the time you was young towards adolescence, towards being a grown man, a grown woman. It's different if y'all just grew up in the truth and folks just be perfect. But in reality, no one's necessarily born perfect. You can become perfect in the law, statutes, and commandments, but we still have to battle the mind. And the mind is where a lot of our lusts come into play, right? It's not like we're forced to do these things, right? But we have to have that inner strength. That's a nice house, kind of. We have to have the bravery to understand that we're going to lose these people. The people that we thought was always going to be in our life. Nah, that's just vicinity, you know? The people that I grew up with aren't the people that I talk to. Only my family, my intermediate family. Other than that, the best people I've met are new people. You know, 27 years old, the people I grew up with through middle school, high school, these aren't the people that I talk to at all. Only one brother that I knew from high school that I actually resort to. Actually two, you know? Actually two. And I've started to battle my secret sins years ago. I was struggling for years. I never gave up on myself. And God bless that family. They got a lot of cars. I never gave up on myself. But I could only wish that my brothers and sisters that know about my walk could have had more endurance like how I did. But a lot of us need more suffering. It takes a long time for us to sound like ourselves, from the words of Miles Davis, and that's very true. It takes a long time for us to get that courage to build ourselves up into who we're supposed to be. It takes a long time for us to accept who God wants us to simply be. It takes time, you know? And as I'm driving to work, preparing for my run, which I'm about to take on my lunch break, you know, making sure I'm at ease, you know? And there's peace and understanding that you're going to lose people when you're on this walk, because I'm telling you, you realize that the people that you had that you're quote unquote losing, they're not the people that you're going to finish the race with. God may spin them back. You know, people might grow on their own and come back to where they can meet you. But when you're on your path to growing, you can't afford to be around people who aren't trying to do the same. They don't have to be at the same level of discipline as you, but if they're trying to get to that point, you can work with that. It'll still be wise to keep some distance though, until they get more stripes under their belt, on their gi. But, you know, don't ever count out the late bloomer, as my dad always says. It's a blessing to say that. My dad. It's a blessing to even say that as a black man, you know. But if you come across the video, understand that, grow comfortable that you're going to lose people. You may even lose your husband. You may lose your wife. You may lose your spouse. You may lose that person that you always thought you was going to ride out with. But understand that it's necessary. These are growing pains. These are things that we must go through. These are growing pains. These are growing pains. It's a necessary pain that you have to go through. It's 100% necessary. You can't skip these steps. You can't. And where I'm at, I'm just overly appreciative that I'm able to look at life through that lens, man. I'm telling you, man. It is hard when you feel like you want people in your life, but you can't anymore. It's hard in the beginning, but you get used to it. You get used to it. And you actually start to prefer it too. Why would I want somebody in my life who's not giving me fruit of the Spirit with their own self, let alone me, right?